Hey, welcome to Film Fanatics. My name is Dan.
My name is Justin.
And I'm Joe.
This week, the latest team-up from Mark Wahlberg and Peter Berg, the latest directing effort from Ben Affleck, and the latest winner of Best Foreign Film at the Golden Globes. So first up is this Mark Wahlberg movie Patriots Day. Following Lone Survivor and Deepwater Horizon, the actor teams up again with director Peter Berg to tell a true story about American heroes, this time at the Boston Marathon bombing of 2013. Wahlberg plays the composite cop Sergeant Tommy Saunders, and Kevin Bacon, John Goodman, and J.K. Simmons round the cast out as people involved with catching the bomber in various positions of government. Now, if you have seen the other two movies I've mentioned, you both have. Well, actually, Joe, you didn't see Deepwater, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Remember, I like the CGI fighter.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah.
So this film has Berg's stamp all over it. To me, he's becoming a director with his own style. You know, Bay has explosions. Woody Allen has jazz. Berg has the you are there shots and all the overhead swoops, you know, that he does of the landscapes. And there's both positives and negatives that I feel about this style. Possibly a little bit common, but I think it's effective. It gets the job done. And as for the movie itself, it works. Wahlberg is essentially doing his classic Boston character. And since it's a composite, he doesn't have to align himself with any particular mannerisms or look. He's just Wahlberg being Boston Wahlberg. Mm-hmm. And again, there's both positives and negatives with that. But the movie has tense moments in spades, and I think it paces them out perfectly, adding in details that perhaps most of us did not really know. The slight side stories with the civilians present during the bombing sort of work, but only when taken in context with the interviews at the end of the movie with the real people, which I'm sure Justin will have a lot to say about. It does seem sort of superfluous, I will admit, for this one. A little bit like I was watching a 2020 report about the bombings, largely because it goes on for like 5 minutes. Kind of a, here's what these people are doing now, here's who's in jail. I think probably would cover it. And there's also discussion, and I'm sure Justin will speak to this as well, about the whole too soon nature of the movie. It doesn't affect me like that. I didn't think 1993 was too soon. Zero Dark 30, Captain Phillips. I mean, these are all movies within about 4 years of the timeline. And I don't know. I mean, the proof is in the pudding because you know who loves this movie? Bostonians.
All right.
You know, I mean, they're the ones affected by it. If they're giving it the thumbs up, I don't know why anybody else should care. I think it's very gripping. I really enjoyed it. Justin, let's hear from you about it.
Okay, so I loved Lone Survivor. I thought it was a really good war movie. Deepwater Horizon, not so great, though the Wrath of the Clip shows were in abundance for both. Seriously, Peter Berg, you need to let it go. Not to go frozen on you. But
Rambo. I say Rambo. I go even further back. Let it go.
God.
But no, with this one, I think it's kind of a bit of a difference between the two.
In quality? Because I agree. This is my...
As a whole,
yeah,
yes.
I like it less than Lone Survivor, but more than Deepwater.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I agree with that.
For me, when this got announced, I was sort of indifferent about it, mostly because it's far too soon, and I feel like there's going to be more to say about it in later years. Like, we have the whole Boston Pride thing that they talk about at the end, which is, I think, why Bostonians are like, this movie's amazing. Because it really does showcase, like, okay, the willingness of an entire community to sort of come together as a whole.
Do you think it might be pandering a little bit, though?
In a way, but...
Is it excusable in this case?
A little excusable.
The city did rise up and
did.
Which is
become
good,
one.
but
yeah.
like 9/11, New York did too.
Very true. And
I mean,
I'm sure World Trade Center covered that, but I never saw it.
Neither did I.
It's okay, but...
Well, it's Oliver Stone and
Nick
Cage, so it's like two people who...
But Michael Pena.
...have mixed reviews. Well,
he doesn't really save a movie.
Yeah, he doesn't save a movie. Sometimes he can add to it.
No, with this one, I feel like the big issue this has, outside of the fact that it's too soon, what I would argue in the way of Zero Dark 30 is United 93 and Patriots Day are focused on tragedies. I would say Zero Dark 30 is just historical drama, I guess, of sorts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so to you, it's the tragedy storytelling that's too soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Very. But with this one, the biggest issue I have is there's just way, way too many characters. Like, an insane amount. And I understand this was a big event, there was a lot going on, but not every character needed a prologue, not every character needed a subplot, and they keep bouncing between every single character and alongside that, making Mark Wahlberg magically show up everywhere out of convenience. Spoiler alert, his character never existed, which is why it's...
I already said that. He was a composite of many different cops.
Yes, but ergo why he didn't show up in the, like, here's where everyone is after this.
Yeah.
But, which I think is completely ridiculous in the way of the storytelling. Like, if you're really so interested in talking about so many different people, why not just completely run with it and do sort of like an anthology of sorts?
It is interesting to kind of have somebody be a representation of like the police force.
The problem they ran into from an interview that I read with Berg was that the more people they talked to, the more people who were like, oh yeah, I was there and I did this and that and the other thing. And he said that no fewer than 20 police officers told him that they were personally the ones that cuffed the guy. So, I mean, there's, everybody wants to take pride for it, which is great, except then you have a story where you do have to sort of make more of a composite.
That's interesting, actually.
Who knows? I don't know if there's footage of it or not. Will we ever know? I don't know. But to simply, like, lop him in with X amount of people, I just think is manipulative and unfair. Alongside that, I think it takes a little while to get going. It's very much Berg doing his Berg shtick. We need to see how they're in every man. I think the prologue with Wahlberg's character is completely unnecessary and ridiculous.
Well, I guess that was just kind of starting his arc, so to speak.
Yeah, it's the first time we see Goodman. I mean,
there you go.
Yeah,
some established stuff early on.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was kind of like we are trying to get it with him as the main character, so it's.
But there were so many different ways to go about that, and just random like, oh, here's him busting a house is.
I didn't mind that so much as all the extra people.
That would be like an intro,
that was
like
at least him and Goodman.
Just in many movies they kind of have like one situation to kind of introduce things, set things up as the status quo, and then status quo destroyed.
But here's the problem: nothing really in that holds any water for everything that's to come. Like
it's true.
They play out the whole injury thing, which.
But if they made it up, I guess they couldn't. They ended up. Oh well,
then
it's not
write something
out.
that makes it work, but no, I mean. Outside of that, though, once it actually gets going, it is really well paced. The tension is absolutely solid, and there is a lot of really great suspense that comes along with that. The clip show-ish, what I will give him points for is, for the first time, Berg hasn't just basically put a PowerPoint presentation together and said, here you go. I do actually like the fact that we got some filmed interviews, because for the first time after 2 movies, it actually felt like he was putting forth some sort of actual effort as a filmmaker instead of just throwing a bunch of photos together.
He put effort in other areas.
Well, Lone Survivor, everybody was dead except for him. So you can't really have interviews with them.
Would you like to talk about
Deepwater Horizon, I guess they were all alive.
Except for the people that weren't.
Well, but most of the main characters lived, I mean.
True.
Yeah, of sorts.
Yeah.
I think this is a movie that really could have been one of the best movies of the year if they had spent more time working on the script.
Joe?
I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I do agree with a lot of what you guys both said, though. I think I kind of wish that they had focused on a character that might have been there, because I feel like in this situation we did see there were a lot of people with interesting perspectives on it. With a lot of these.
Well, I mean, Bacon was real, Goodman was real, the mayor was real.
Yeah, but this is the thing. I feel like focusing a little more on them, or maybe picking an angle from one of those characters that did exist, and focusing on the thriller aspect, because that was my favorite part, going after the guy. That reminded me a little bit of Zero Dark 30, and I feel like had the movie focused a little more on that chase, there was some good tension there. Maybe it could have been a little more successful. I do think that the initial peril is good. It's well shot. You definitely see his mark there, as you guys mentioned. But as far as Wahlberg's character goes, he is kind of doing his shtick.
Yeah.
But it's fine, and I
thought it was effective.
It was effective. But
for a start,
it was fine. It's just, I feel like there was probably a better way to do it. I do feel like there could have been more payoff with some of the stuff in the beginning. You're right, but I don't know. I think for what it was, it did work. I think that I could definitely see why Bostonians would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I do think that there were a lot of subplots that didn't go anywhere, though. Like once again, more focus on one or a few of those characters,
Well, if they
would have
didn't
been so
have
much
the
better.
interviews at the end, the couple would be meaningless. The
Yep.
man that lost his son would be meaningless.
Exactly. Which,
Yeah.
it's good, I guess they had them to be like, okay, that's why they were there. But if you're wondering, like, can we get back to the main story?
Yes.
And it kind of makes you feel bad afterward, like, oh, but you should be feeling that in the experience, which means maybe it wasn't conveyed with enough time on them. But then again, why are they in
Well, I
there?
mean, like half the stuff with the victims is essentially like 2-minute scenes.
Exactly. And you could maybe even have like a section devoted to it, perhaps, where you kind of get that out of the way and then come back to it. Sometimes some films have done
Yeah.
that, but I think Sully did that, actually, if I remember correctly. Had a couple, you got the couple side characters out of the way, and that wasn't great either. But at least you got to
I
see
didn't love
them.
it in Sully, yeah.
Sully, but that's
Yeah.
I feel.
But you could still have those interviews at the end of this movie without having the characters even in it. You could have them talking about how they lost their legs and then, everything that happened afterwards and the guy reunited with his little boy.
All right.
You don't really need the characters in the movie to appreciate, I think, the interviews with the real people.
What would you guys feel like if some films do this, where they're basing on a real event, maybe a tragedy, and they actually have clips or maybe interviews beforehand to set the scene? Like maybe one interview, then cut to the beginning of the film.
Oh, yeah.
That might-
films have
Yeah, I
done
was gonna
that.
say.
I feel like
It
that
works.
might be
Yeah.
more effective, perhaps.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I like it sometimes.
Yeah.
But
That might have worked here.
Maybe like a scene like that. It doesn't have. We don't have to see the character. We just get a phone to a Wahlberg story, and then we go back
Yeah.
to the action. But like I said, I thought it was pretty flowing. I really think that when it got to that thriller aspect, there was some good tension. You're definitely right, and I think it was well shot. But you are right. It's sort of basic.
It's very Berg.
It's very Berg, but Berg
It
is
reminded me a lot of Deepwater.
It is-
the style.
much more like Deepwater.
Yeah.
But I think that I prefer this one a little more than Deepwater, because Deepwater had some moments that were
Yeah,
just
same.
cheesy. They were just a little cheesy.
Jumping over the fire.
I'd like that. It's just the
There
emphasizing
was a lot of CGI use
the
in this
CGI
one
drill-
as opposed to Deepwater.
No.
which might be what it was, the drilling into the earth and like this is what is happening. There was less of that. It was a little more subtle, I guess. It
Yeah.
breathed more, but it's a little more serious. I don't know. They're both serious.
They're
but
both pretty serious.
Yeah.
I guess this one's a little darker because it's terrorism.
Yeah.
But I don't know. As far as the whole too soon argument, 9/11 had a lot of that. I do think that it might be a little too soon just because we're in the heat of the moment and trying to dramatize it versus looking back at it historically when we have more information. I think that's one reason why Zero Dark didn't get that problem, because it's been...
But what more information is there? They got the guys. They figured out how they did it. The one's dead. I mean... what else is there? I think it's a closed case at this point.
To be fair, though, oftentimes in cases that seem to be closed, you do more investigations and you learn
guess.
more. I mean,
Yeah.
So really, we learn new things all the time. So I feel like, I guess if the Bostonians were fine, maybe, but you could make the argument that they're trying to capitalize on the drama, because that didn't happen very long ago. I remember it pretty clearly.
Yeah, 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago. I remember exactly what it was, actually.
Well,
Yeah.
Deepwater was also pretty recent.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, longer ago than this. Probably 7 or 8 years ago, but...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Still.
and I do like that. Trying to tell these stories is pretty cool. But why do you think that Lone Survivor still might be his best, though? And like differentiated from this, is it
Well,
that it was more focused on
I
one
think that
character?
it's the one character focus. Wahlberg's connection to the character, I think, was the strongest. I mean, you have here he's not playing a real person. Deepwater, he is playing a real person, but it's like oil rigger Joe, so it's like
It's Mark Wahlberg.
yeah, it's
Yes.
kind of Mark Wahlberg on the oil rig. Also, and we talked about this during that movie. That accent didn't exist. It was,
What
it
was
was
it?
Boston accent on the Texas Deepwater. Didn't make any sense.
Wow, contractor. You flew him in.
But I don't really more compelling than this in Lone Survivor. But I do think because it was sort of more a solo piece that we maybe felt more for him. I don't know.
It was also a quieter movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say.
A
But,
little bit.
I was going to say, please elaborate on that statement, Joe.
well, I don't know. There were just a lot of scenes that had a lot of quieter tension. Like I remember when they were in the woods and it was just him and his buddies.
Yeah.
And you could feel it, but there wasn't a lot of chaos. Which Deepwater having a bunch
Not the huge amount of gunplay, Joe.
There was, but I mean, it wasn't
In
like
spurts.
in spurts. It wasn't like they were surrounded by CGI
This
fire
movie
or
was very loud.
explosions.
Well,
Patriots. So there's always that one big action piece, which I guess Deepwater was one big action set piece.
Yeah.
Most of it CGI. But,
Very true.
This, but
Unfortunately.
Lone Survivor was just also a more real film. Not much CGI in there, that I can recall.
Yeah.
So, maybe.
I enjoyed this film. It's a B+ for me. Justin?
B.
Joe?
I'm with you, man. B+.
Okay. Well, Joe, let's hear about this Live by Night.
Well, if you saw it at night and you get out alive, you done well.
Success.
Well, let's see. I'm going to do this off the cuff.
Another Affleck-directed film.
Affleck directs a gangster movie. He plays a guy who's a gangster. Well, no. He doesn't want to identify as a gangster. He robs banks, but he's kind of caught in the middle of a gang war, which is classic. It's in the 20s, Prohibition.
So, outlaw?
Outlaw. He thinks he's an outlaw, but it turns out that he's in love with this girl who is the lady of a certain gangster. Things go wrong. He goes on the run, works for the rival gangster, and tries to do the right thing, but gets caught up in this whole deal with this religious girl, and Elle Fanning tries to run gambling out there, and it's a whole big thing. A lot of death, a lot of destruction, and a lot of great cinematography and some really good costuming and some period music.
I feel like there's a lot of butts coming.
And there's some decent acting, I guess, at points. And there is some great mafia action sometimes.
When it wants to.
Like towards the end, you're like, wow. Yeah, that was there. That was good, I guess. I like that. I legitimately like that. Then there's a lot of periods of time leading up to these moments. It's a very slow movie. It's very slow. I have to say that some parts are kind of boring. It feels to me like we're delving into the outliers of the gangster lifestyle. Like we're looking into this.
Right.
And this feels like we are definitely watching a gangster movie in the 20s, and all the characters are there. All the spots are there. We're going through some interesting themes potentially, but most of the characters, with the possible exception of Affleck's, aren't really well established because we don't go deep enough into anything. We scrape the surface of a lot of interesting ideas. I'll admit that, but we don't spend enough time on anything, and there just are a lot of periods of time where nothing's really happening. He's just kind of going from place to place, and you kind of go through it, and you're like, what was the moral of this? And then the movie ends, and you're kind of wondering what the point of a lot of it was. Is it being too over the top? Is it being too overly metaphorical, or is it not being smart enough? Sometimes I think it's doing both. So it's one of those movies that I really wanted to like it, and there are things about it that I like, for sure. But there's a lot missing. I feel like there's a lot of meat that definitely is under there, but it's just not. It's a movie that had potential to be great, but is not.
Okay, Justin, did you feel the same?
I can't say I'm a huge Affleck fan, but as a director,
You're really not.
Especially back
no,
I don't get it.
Well, Casey more so than Ben, but
Well, you like Casey more?
no. In terms of
Hate. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Didn't you guys like that Manchester by the Sea? Right?
I'm not saying anything negative about any Affleck right now. Yes, I did.
But anyways,
Okay.
if I had to describe this movie in one word, it would be hollow. I didn't like, and pretty much straight at the gate, I never found any legitimate reason to like Ben Affleck's character. They tried to play up briefly the aspect of like, okay, I went to war, was expecting a better life, so I became an outlaw-ish, and gee, we haven't only seen this played out 30 times.
He takes good care of the women in his life.
Tries.
Tries being the key word there.
You gotta give him, Justin, you gotta give him props for trying to do the right thing.
And also bear in mind, most of which comes into play, I'm going to say 45 minutes to an hour into the movie.
Gotta build up to it, I guess.
But no, I think the biggest issue this movie has, outside of the fact that it's so monumentally hollow, is I don't think Ben Affleck has any idea what this movie is. Is it a gangster movie? Is it a morality tale? Is it a period piece about the 20s lifestyle and just the conflicting lifestyles?
I think it's trying to be all those
I
things.
think all mob movies set in the 20s are all of those things.
I don't
including
agree.
this
I don't even remotely agree with that.
Okay.
But what's Ben Affleck's answer? Let's just sort of take elements from all three of those and hope something works. Sorry, Mr. Affleck, you missed, and you missed big time.
Damn.
The action is few and very far between. The beats don't gel at all. The cinematography's good, I'll grant you that. And at times it's interesting, but there were several moments where I honestly couldn't tell you if I was entirely sure what was going on and why, because it kept jumping around so much and so aimlessly.
I don't think it was that hard to follow.
All right, well...
Dan, now I'm curious.
Listen, I think it's a very average and basic movie.
It's pretty basic.
However, I mean, Justin is, like, ripping it apart. I can't
I don't think it's...
allow that. It's not that horrible. It's average. I think Affleck does an okay job. I don't think he puts his usual directing stamp on it. I agree there. And in terms of the length, I didn't feel it until all of the endings.
There were a couple endings.
I was okay with the dramatic portions and the action portions. I agree we don't know some of these characters as well. His buddy from the Mindy Project, he's, who knows why he is aligned with Affleck. Well, we don't really discover that.
There's another character at the beginning, too, but we don't get to know him. We just kind of get the other half of the drivers.
Yes, I agree with that.
Just like, that's kind of a weird thing to happen.
I agree with that. And there's some fun, 1920s car chases.
Yeah.
That, I think that part was good with the directing. But no, I didn't feel the length really until the end, where there's about 4 or 5 tacked on endings where you really could have just probably had the one and then maybe an epilogue to that.
I do have to ask, Dan, compared to this or Muppets, Chris Cooper's line, both pretty good, right?
Both pretty good. Both pretty good. I think his gag in the Muppets
It'd be more laugh.
it made me laugh more.
Okay, but did you? I have to say, I kind of liked that subplot a little bit. I felt that one. If there was any emotion,
well, I think the Elle Fanning, Chris Cooper side story is one of the more interesting side stories of this film. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, do we spend enough time with him? No.
No.
Is it fleshed out enough? No. But in terms of the interesting side characters,
something's happening.
They're up there with this movie.
I thought they got better as they went along.
Well, she kind of disappears pretty quickly. We meet her, and then she's off to Hollywood for a good, hour of the film.
And then, whoa.
And then when she returns, I think the movie is probably at its peak in those scenes. In terms of the drama, I guess, of the movie. So, I don't know. I mean, I think Affleck is not up to his normal par here, but I like him as, an actor and a director. This wasn't his best directing, for sure.
Well, it's no Argo.
No, it's probably his worst directing. I mean, The Town is directed very well in Argo, and I think he did one more, but...
Gone Baby Gone.
Gone Baby Gone, yes.
Yeah, those are all better
movies.
movies.
Also good. And they're better movies in general.
Yes. Yeah, I'd agree.
Maybe he bit off more than he could chew with the writing and directing and the starring.
It's like an epic. It's like he was trying to do a gangster epic, and it's like,
you're not Mel Gibson Braveheart here. Like maybe you're not quite up to it, but I thought it was okay. I leave Live by Night with a C. Justin?
D+.
Okay, Joe?
I'm a C+.
Okay. All right, Justin. Let's talk about Elle, which recently netted the actress a Golden Globe.
Before he goes into that, though, your prediction was right. C- minimum.
Well,
the shootout at the end
was pretty
great.
mob movie. It has to be C- or higher.
Rob the Mob.
Rob the Mob. Naturally. The Family, which was not very good.
I think I give that like a C. Maybe C-.
I think I gave it a C-. I think you gave it a C+ or something. You liked it a bit more than I did.
Run All Night and everything else. But all right, so with this one we have Isabelle Huppert as Michelle LeBlanc, a ruthless businesswoman whose life takes a dramatic shift after a brutal attack. Slowly but surely, Michelle becomes obsessed with the prospect of revenge and ultimately resolves to track down her attacker. So this was directed by Paul Verhoeven, who's got a, shall we say, pretty spotted filmography. In some instances, you have one of Joe's favorites, RoboCop, and you have others that are near universally reviled, Showgirls.
Kind of like Spectrums.
Yeah, and Basic Instinct for anyone else who saw that. But
a lot of people saw it.
Yeah.
Needless to say, tries to shoot for the satirical angle. How well does it work? sometimes amazing, sometimes not so much. Elle aims somewhere in between. Granted, I think the social commentary at play here is definitely prominent and warranted, and sometimes, when it's really at its finest hours, fearlessly handled. But where I thought this one really stalled is, first and foremost, yet again, it's a little bit too long. Better paced than some of the stuff that we've been covering recently, but definitely runs a little on the long side. I think the tension's there, but I'll be frank with you guys. I figured out who was the attacker probably about 30 minutes into the movie. Yeah. Granted, that's not necessarily a bad thing. The way it plays out afterwards is essentially foreign gone girl, but in a good way. Though I think my biggest issue outside of that is there's a few too many subplots. They really try to make LeBlanc's character. They try to cover every aspect of her life, and needless to say, some aspects are more interesting and compelling than others. And I thought the conclusion kind of resolved itself a little too neatly. It's a solid thriller. It's got a lot to say. I'm not sure if it's the boldest statement Paul Verhoeven has ever made.
I think that she does give a great performance in a movie that for a while isn't quite sure what it is. I mean, this is what you were saying, Justin, with the satirical angle, meets this thriller aspect. I think Verhoeven is sort of all over the place for a little while.
He's trying to split the difference, I think.
Well, so much so that one older woman in my theater started, laughing at the rape scene. Because I think she didn't know what to... I don't know if it was nervous laughter or what it was, but, it was not a funny scene, but because of the kind of satirical nature of some of the previous scenes, it was where exactly is this going? I didn't find it funny, but, it tickled her fancy, I guess. I think she's definitely a very complex character, one of the most we've seen
certainly, yeah.
of the year. Talking about Gone Girl as a comparison isn't, that off base. I mean, we do find out the mystery about halfway through, and then we have an hour left of the movie where we sort of are dealing with that and the, ancillary pieces. No, I didn't necessarily pick up who the attacker was, but I think whether you did or you didn't, it doesn't really matter just because it's not the conclusion of the movie.
No.
So I think that's fine. It is too long by about 15 minutes, but every time it wraps something up, then something else comes in. So it's I'm not sure if maybe we could have ended those one early or what. But there's certainly a lot of odd themes with this movie. Not unlike Nocturnal Animals, I suppose, too.
It's a fair comparison, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it won the Best Foreign Film at the Globes, but it's already out of contention for the Oscars shortlist for their foreign film. So, and I think that's probably about right. I didn't see a lot of foreign movies this year, but I can't imagine this was one of the top 5. I
mean, it's always hard to say because often what they end up choosing doesn't show up in the mainstream until quite a few months later.
Well, that's true, but I mean,
yeah.
Usually the ones they pick, I give typically higher grades to than this.
Higher marks, yeah.
Yeah, so good, but kind of like Nocturnal Animals, I give it a B+. There's some issues with it. Joe didn't see it, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, same. B+.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some interesting things here, but she really holds this movie together.
Definitely.
With a lesser actress, I don't know if you get the same experience.
Oh, no. Not even remotely.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, the Oscar nominations were just recently announced, so as we do every year here on the show, we're going to talk about the big Oscar snubs of the year in top 5 fashion. Lots of kind of obvious choices this year for the Oscars. Many movies with repeat nominations. La La Land tying the record with 14, held by Titanic and All About Eve. But what was missed? What was left off? Justin, let's go to you first with your top 5.
All right.
And as we do every year, we'll have to replace. You're kicking somebody out if you're, giving them the nomination.
Yes, absolutely. So number 5 is going to go to Best Original Screenplay, and I'm actually going to say Swiss Army Man on this one.
That was on my short list.
I mean, you could call it the Harry Potter farting corpse movie all you want, but if nothing else, it is a fiendishly original movie. Which is why the one I'm kicking out is Hell or High Water. Ooh. This movie does do a couple new things, but for the most part, it's the standard cops and robbers chase movie that we're all familiar with. Number 4 is going to go to Best Supporting Actor, and that would be Patrick Stewart in Green Room. There's a lot to be said about Green Room, but really, Patrick Stewart is honestly the glue that holds this movie together with its tension, with the menace, and just absolutely going well out of his wheelhouse. We know he's got a lot of talent, but this just continues to showcase how much range and how much depth he's willing to explore. And in a stark contrast, I would say, sort of, while I do respect Michael Shannon's emphasis on menace in Nocturnal Animals, it's nowhere near close to being on par with Stewart in Green Room, so that's why I'd probably oust him from that one. Number 3 is going to be for Best Documentary, and that's one that we hit on the show. That's going to be Wiener.
Yeah, I was surprised not to see that on the list. A lot of buzz.
I'm floored that that didn't get nominated, because there's a lot of good material there. A lot of interesting observations about society. A lot of a really interesting character portrait as well, and a pretty good observation about just how do we perceive things via the media. The one I would kick out easily among the list is Life Animated. This movie just makes me sick. I don't even want to get into it. I debated actually writing an entire editorial about how much I loathe this movie. OJ Made in America, I've got issues with, but everyone talks about how amazing it is. 13th, I've heard nothing but raves. So, Life Animated, you are the weakest link. Goodbye. And number 2 is for best original song, and believe it or not, it's actually a tie. And that's going to go to Drive It Like You Stole It, or To Find You, Sing Street. Say what you will about Sing Street, but really the music is by far the star of the show for that one, and it's absolutely appalling that it got no love this time around. If Begin Again can get a nomination, Sing Street deserves some love in the Best Original Song category. Honestly, for the most part, I think the Best Original Song lists are warranted, but I'd say the weakest of the bunch that I think either entry could happily replace is going to be Can't Stop the Feeling from Trolls. And my number 1, as is more than warranted, has to be Amy Adams, actress, Arrival. I mean, it's been enough is enough. She's proven time and time and again. She's a talented actress. She continues to show her promise as an actress. I don't understand the logic behind why she hasn't got a nomination for this. Who I'd kick out, going to be Meryl Streep, Florence Foster Jenkins.
Oh. All right. Wiener's a good choice. I couldn't do anything with documentaries because I haven't seen any of them, so I couldn't kick any out, so I'll leave it be. But Wiener, or, I love that Beatles one as well, 8 Days a Week.
Good choice.
So, thank you. So my number 5 is actually a tie. It's one in each of the screenplay categories. The screenplay categories this year, I think, are actually mostly pretty solid. Swiss Army Man is a good choice. I actually went with, this might be a surprising one coming from me, but for adapted screenplay, I went with Nocturnal Animals.
Okay.
For the same reason that you went with Swiss Army Man. I think that Nocturnal Animals, just its structure and its story, are both just incredibly unique. And as much as I love this movie, looking at the category, I would have to drop Hidden Figures. Now I haven't seen Lion yet, so jury's out on that one. But Moonlight, Fences, and Arrival, I have no bones with. I mean, all 3 were in my top 10 of the year. Keep them. For original screenplay, I went with Captain Fantastic. This was one of my favorite movies of the year, and the Academy did show a little bit of love for this with the actor nomination for Mortensen.
Yeah. Pleasant surprise.
It was a pleasant surprise. I would kick out The Lobster.
What?
It is also, original, but I really loved Hell or High Water. It is more basic, you're right. Maybe I would kick out Hell or High Water instead of The Lobster, now that you said it. But all right, number 4 for me is for Best Picture. We don't have to kick anything out in this category because there was one nomination left untapped. It has to be Sing Street. This was one of the best movies of the year, and they never seem to nominate these sort of indie movies with buzz unless they're about an issue
Yes.
like Moonlight. And Moonlight's a great movie.
It is.
But come on, everyone loves Sing Street, just like everyone loved Chef 2 years ago. So enough is enough of that. Now, number 3 for me is in the most crowded of the fields, and that is Best Actress. I pick Annette Bening for 20th Century Women.
No.
Who do I drop? It's a tough choice, but I drop Emma Stone for La La Land. She may actually win. It's kind of like when I dropped Cate Blanchett and then, she won.
Blue Jasmine, right?
Yeah, well, she stinks. But unfortunately with Best Actress, I haven't seen Loving or Jackie.
That's fair.
I've heard Natalie Portman does an amazing job in Jackie.
As have I.
I'm hopefully going to see that this week. I thought Isabel Huppert did great in Elle, and Meryl Streep we'll hear about in a moment. Number 2 for me is Drive It Like You Stole It from Sing Street. I think it's a shame that they, nominated Begin Again. They won for once.
Yeah.
And here, in what
Seriously?
what I think is just such a fun movie. The songs are so great. I like both the La La Land selections. I can't kick either of those out.
No.
And one of them I think is sure to win. I'm going to kick out Sting. I like Sting, but he got nominated because he's Sting. So kick him out.
Is that for the Jim Foley one, or?
Yeah. I think "Can't Stop the Feeling" is a fantastic song, so I can't kick that out. And number 1, this is where you kick Meryl Streep out. Of course, it's Amy Adams for Arrival, Best Actress.
You did a good job.
You did a good job, but let's calm down. Would she have been nominated if Donald Trump didn't call her overrated 2 weeks ago and the Academy's like, not my Meryl? I don't know. I mean, the Academy nominates her every year anyway, so maybe she would have been. But this is just a crime that Amy Adams did not get nominated for Arrival. And it's not like the Academy doesn't like her. She's been nominated several times before.
Like, seriously, what's your excuse this time?
This is one of her finest roles, and obviously the movie has a lot of nominations. I think 7 or 8 or something. So it just blows my mind that she wasn't nominated.
Definitely.
Joseph?
It blows my mind.
Amy Adams.
Yes.
Yes.
She does.
How about that, Liz?
Well, I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
But I will say a few things. Firstly, I don't care about the Oscars.
No, you don't.
I don't care what they do. I don't care what they say. It doesn't matter because they don't care about any of my movies. So why should I care about any of theirs? Okay.
Hey, Arrival was your favorite movie of the year,
Yes.
and that got a lot of love.
Yes.
Not from her.
Yes.
I'm glad that a science fiction movie is getting some accolades. That's great. How many of them are they going to win? We'll see. But hey, Amy Adams is honestly one of the strongest aspects of the movie, so I do think she should get a win for this one. But I would wonder, though, would it be giving her a win for this one, or just because she's Amy Adams and she deserves it for many other movies?
I mean, it would definitely be apology letter rule, but...
See?
I don't know. She's pretty great in this movie.
I mean, I'd say it's twofold, though. Like, yeah, she's great in Arrival, but also it's sort of the same... It would be in the same camp as The Revenant. Like, you're due. You're legitimately due.
But what might happen is because of the outcry and she doesn't get it this time, then because of that, next time she'll get it.
She's slowly heading into female Leo camp.
I guess.
So I think if she didn't get it, I mean, she's got to get it eventually. But I was glad to hear about, some Patrick Stewart from Justin. That's great. But, would the Academy care about, a horror movie that's not that big? No, they won't.
Of course not.
Of course not.
I thought Goodman would have been a great choice for supporting for Cloverfield.
I would have too, but maybe...
Never was going to happen.
The standout for that necessarily.
I mean, if they're getting more open to sci-fi, I'd say, why not? Anything's possible.
They're not
I think that's a stretch.
Super open.
And it was a movie that came out 11 months ago.
Yeah.
That always goes in one ear and out the other for the Academy.
All the Sing Street stuff does kind of surprise me, though. Like, I feel like... I don't get that at all, honestly.
No.
What a movie.
That's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But there's still a couple I didn't see.
Yeah, you missed actually quite a few. Moonlight, Hidden Figures.
Some of these I can't really honestly judge.
Yeah.
I got to catch up on them. I do want to see Swiss Army Man, though, regardless of, even if it is completely forgotten.
Yeah, all right. Well, so we'll see in a few weeks when the Oscars come out, and we'll see what happens. All right, so we'll wrap it up there. Next week, 4 big movies that Joe is going to lead all of them.
Yep.
Payback
time.
Gonna be
With
very
a vengeance.
interesting.
Hey, I suggested it, so I'll do it.
You did, yeah. So we'll see what you think of The Founder and Silence and Split and Triple X.
He said them all, so I remember. It's recorded now, so I can't forget.
Can't take it back.
Nope.
That'll do it for us. You can check us out on the Facebook group at Film Fanatics with an exclamation point, and the Twitter feed at Film Fanatics Pod, and Joe, of course, on the Merlin channel. What's new there?
Well, the newest thing there is
Lots of Batman.
You know, we've been doing a lot of Merlin. Literally, like it's like it's been Dragon Ball. I got wearing the shirt tonight. You can't see people,
True.
but then it's been Dragon Ball stuff and Batman stuff. Though the end of the last podcast, we talked about Doctor Who a little bit, mixed it up a
Wow,
little.
mixing it up.
Had some interesting debates. I found out that most of the friends, at least in that podcast, were fans of 9 over a lot of the other ones, which for New Who was
Really?
surprising, right, Justin?
Pretty much sacrilege by most accounts.
But hey,
What's my favorite? 7, right?
well, no, your favorite's 4, isn't he? Tom
Oh,
Baker.
4. Wow, he was that
Baker,
long
right?
ago.
Yeah, if you're talking about
Of
New
course,
Who,
Baker.
I'd be curious to see if you ever watched it, Dan, who you'd like. I don't know, I could see you being a David Tennant fan.
Yeah, everything I know about him sounds about right.
I could see it.
Yeah.
But as far as the next one, we're going to, of course, do Triple X3. So I got to
Obviously.
talk about that one on this podcast. But beforehand, we did
car chat.
did some car chat about it. So that'll be the newest video. And I recently put up a Let's Play. My buddies were playing some Dark Souls. My buddy Troll's going to be doing some horror block unboxings. So.
Nice.
So some bunch of things there.
All right, very cool. And your Twitter as well as Merlin, at Merlin Reviews.
That's right.
So, all right, well, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you back here next time.